it's not just about protecting against the future disruptions or polarization. It's about a process of understanding and peeling back what artificial polarization has occurred over the last 8 years.
Talk to me a little bit about what the film's genesis, like what was the starting point for this?
Yeah, so actually Jeff and Tristan went to Stanford together, and while I think some of Jeff's other colleagues went into Silicon Valley and kind of wanted to make the world a better place through some of the technology work that they did, Jeff kind of took a different turn and ended up in filmmaking, and at some point Tristan and Jeff connected.
Yeah, we had a phone call. It was I think it was, I'm trying to actually remember when it was. Was it October 2017?
17.
Yeah. And then we sat down at a cafe in San Francisco, and it was right at the rise of people becoming aware of social media's influence in the 2016 election. And we had just started, our work was just taking off. And so we had a conversation, and he wanted to start doing a film, so we got going.
It was really, I think, surprising to us to hear. We had been working on climate change for the last 10 years, and it was shocking to hear some of his friends saying, we really think that there are negative downstream consequences that are bubbling to the surface that most people aren't aware of. And I think Jeff for a long time had been thinking about making a film on filter bubbles. He had seen a talk by Eli Pariser, and after that it was just trying to figure out how do we visualize this. And it was very similar to our work, I think, with Chasing Ice and Chasing Coral, where you're trying to find a way to show people what's happening, showing people the invisible. And for this, it's very similar. We use these phones and this technology every day, and yet we don't really understand what's happening on the other side of our screen. We have no visibility into the algorithms that are sort of orchestrating and puppeteering us.
And I was excited to work with Jeff because we see this very much like climate change. It's sort of the climate change of culture. And much like, climate change is caused by an infinite growth paradigm on a finite amount of environmental resources and then polluting on the public balance sheets, this is an infinite growth paradigm on the finite amount of human attention that exists out there. And those same extractive dynamics mirror climate change. And so we thought, how do we tell this story in a way that has people see, the invisible?
Yeah, it's funny. I was, as you were saying this, I was thinking, this is climate change. Yeah, it's just in terms of the climate that we actually live in socially.
That was what really, I felt like climate is the most important issue one of the most important issues of our time, and I didn't quite understand why should we be spending our time trying to figure out whether it's filter bubbles, such a small problem, or tech addiction. It's hard to fathom the complexities of the issue, and it wasn't until we actually Googled climate change is space. And the autofill results on my computer after 10 years working in climate were not real, fake, and a hoax.
And I did the same search in Germany a week ago, and I still saw the same results. Is a hoax, is not real, etc. So I would actually argue, this is a very important point, you can't solve climate change until you solve this problem. Because what people believe to be true is a foundational, infrastructural level need to solve climate change. If our sense-making environment, if our information ecology is broken, you can't solve climate change because you need agreement in a democracy. So similarly, in my own motivations, the reason that we see this as so urgent is because this is the foundation to solving every other problem. And if technology disrupts our mental, collective, choice-making ability, that doesn't work. So that's why this film is so important.
So having been in the thick of this, how optimistic are you at the coming out of this?
What I say all the time is that no matter how pessimistic things look right now, things have never changed in a positive direction more quickly in terms of developments in the tech industry and ways that people on the inside are waking up, want to help, see the problem more clearly, et cetera. So if you had asked me 5 years ago, I've been working on this topic for 7 years, if you had asked me, 7 years ago, would you ever expect the co-founder of Facebook to say we need to break up Facebook? Would you ever expect Apple, Google, Facebook to start making changes inside their companies? Would you expect thousands of employees to start rallying inside their companies, to actually be writing letters or protesting? I wouldn't have expected any of those things to happen. And the rate at which those things are happening is increasing and accelerating. So as much as things look dark, they're moving, there's changes being made at a faster and faster rate.
And I would say, too, that while the severity of the problem is at a scale that maybe most people can't even fathom. I think it is designed and built by a select group of people, and we caused the problem. We as humanity created the problem, and we should then be able to solve it ourselves. Like, we have the ability and the capacity to change it, and that's what gives me optimism. I think that there's a lot that we have to do in order to get there, and I think we need to look at the way that technology is built. I think we need to look at the way that we use technology, and I think we need to look at the way that technology is regulated.
And I'll say one thing to add on what Larissa said. Unlike climate change, where you have to change what thousands of companies in hundreds of countries are doing, with this problem, there's only, essentially 10 companies in one country regulated by one government, and about 1,000 people total that have to change what they're doing. So if you think about it in terms of tractability, it's actually a small group, but we need a full 360-degree pressure surround sound that says we can't do it the way we're doing it. We have to do it in a different way.
So in terms of like the people who'll be watching this who, are not, odds are not among those 1,000 people and are just, average Facebook, Instagram, whatever users, what are the changes that they can make? Or what can they do about this?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's going to be a big campaign around this film so that people realize it's actually through the public's awareness of the issue that the pressure exists on the inside of the company. So we actually do need the public and the whole public to understand. I think one thing I also believe in and hope is that from a perspective of like election integrity or something like that, like the 2020 US elections, it's not just about protecting against the future disruptions or polarization. It's about a process of understanding and peeling back what artificial polarization has occurred over the last 8 years. It's like a hypnotic trance. We've all been under this trance. So this film, in my mind, is about kind of waking up from the trance so we can see past the polarization, see past the distortions that technology's put on us.
Yeah, and I think it is like a lot of other problems where there are individual actions that can be taken. Jeff, the director, and I have completely shifted the way that we live our lives. Over the last years, from what we've learned from Tristan and the other experts in the film, it has shaped the way that we do business. It has changed the way that we as individuals look at this tool as a tool, as opposed to it using us. And I think in addition to the individual behaviors, we all also have to take a step and say, while we may not be able to change it ourselves, we know that there are people that can do that. And then how do we get the public pressure and the public will, whether that's through regulation or whether that's through the companies themselves deciding that they need to change?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when they see the film, it will re-represent their relationship when they feel like, I'm just a little bit addicted. That people, we've heard from just like what Larissa said, once you see it, you feel very differently about how you want to use technology. You don't really want to use the products that treat you as a resource. And that's the distinction. It's not that all technology is bad or evil.
Right.
It's the ones whose business model is to treat you and your mind and your children as a resource. That's the problem. That's what we want to move off of. It's like the kind of fossil fuel era of technology, except we're the fuel. And we need to move to a regenerative kind of world of technology that's more humane.
One last question. What do you think is, for that, that core group of 1,000 people, what do you think they respond to most? What kind of pressure? Is it financial pressure? Is it social pressure? What is the...
The biggest thing that I've seen is that technology companies don't have a future if they can't attract and retain the best people in the world. And if the best people in the world don't want to work at the major technology companies, that is a huge economic liability. And we've already seen many people in college campuses not want to work for the big companies like Facebook, like Instagram, et cetera, and actually questioning. I mean, we have people contact us all the time saying, hey, I'm on the inside. What can I do to help? I'm questioning whether or not Instagram is good for children, and what can we do to do more? So if that's the thing that you as a leader inside one of these companies are responding to, because you have 100 employees who are saying, if you saw the Facebook letter recently on advertising, the their own employees are disagreeing with Zuckerberg about their ads policy. And that's the kind of internal conflict that actually leads to change.
Yeah.